Hey, what's going on, everybody? Leigh-Dickey here. Welcome back to Leigh-Dickey Beats and Speaks. Today, I want to tell you guys the story about me going through a first aid and CPR class. It was interesting to say the least. You will hear that word a lot probably in this little audio story podcast sort of thing. And you know what? Let's just jump right into it. The story of Leigh-Dickey and going through a CPR and first aid class. It was a lot of moving parts, very interesting, and I'm pretty sure you guys will enjoy it. So here we go. So the story starts off with me in high school. I was probably in, I want to say, 11th grade. I might have been like 16 years old or something. I was probably around 16. So, yeah, about 11th grade or so. And I had a job lined up for that summer as a camp counselor at a camp that I actually used to be a camper at. So, I mean, yeah, I would have taken the job, but the thing was, I needed to have first aid and CPR certification. And regardless of the job or not, it's always good to have it. So I thought, yeah, all right. At the time, I thought, sure, let's go get it. I mean, I would go get it for the job, but looking back on it, having first aid and CPR certification is good to have no matter the job or if you just want to do it because you just want to do it. It's always good to have some sort of CPR and first aid training. So I would go out there. If you're ever thinking of it, just go out there and get it. So to get this job as a camp counselor, I needed the first aid and CPR training. I mean, aside from, passing the initial interview stage, although like the the camp coordinator that I'd been a camper under said that don't worry. I mean, because I'd worked with her a couple years prior and the year before that as a sort of a volunteer, it said, you know what, come on in, apply for next year, but you're basically a shoe-in to get the job anyway. Just come in and let's, have the interview, but go get your first aid and CPR training, which, no problem. I mean, I'll go get it. Okay, that's not an issue. So the day I went to apply to actually go get the CPR and first aid training, it was sometime in the fall, maybe, September, October. And I thought, I would go apply. I'd give them, the fee that you had to pay in order to enroll in the class. I figured, okay, it would probably take place a week, 2 weeks at most, maybe 3 weeks from when I applied. No, the secretary said, or whoever, the administrative lady who was booking these CPR and first aid classes, said to me that the earliest spot they had, for some odd reason, I don't know if they were booking these quarterly and these classes were basically happening a couple times every quarter or whatever it was, but she said to me that the earliest spot they had was in the winter, and that would have been somewhere between January and March. Reluctantly, I mean, I thought about the job that I had lined up, that summer camp counselor job for that following summer. So, I mean, there's not really much I could do at that point. If you say I got to be here in the winter to go through, it's a day course. So if I have to be there in the winter, even though I don't want to be because it's downtown Toronto and we all know how I feel about being in the middle of crowds and how I feel about getting around in the winter because it's not easy for me. Well, it's not easy for anybody, but because I got to basically finagle and move around being disabled and such with a walker and whatever else other accessories and mobility devices I might need to use, getting around in the winter in my part of Toronto where I'm from is hard enough, but getting around downtown Toronto in the winter is just, it bumps it to another level. And I'm not happy about having to go downtown at any point during the year because of the mass amounts of people, but downtown in the winter for me is not the greatest thing. It's not the easiest thing, and I'm just not a fan. But if you tell me, hey, the earliest time we can get you in is somewhere between January and March because that's when the next round of classes is scheduled to start, then okay, I guess that's what I'm gonna have to do. No problem. Let's just sign up. I'll give you the fee. Like I'll pay the fee, and then I'll wait for that day to come, and we'll go through the class. No problem, no issue. When I went in for the first aid and CPR training, and this was like midwinter, so probably right after the new year or something like that, January, February, we were right into the next. We had just started the new year, like that next year. So, it's winter, it's Toronto, it's cold, and this is back when like Toronto's winters were frigidly cold to the point where like I can't feel my face, it hurts. Nowadays, it's not so bad, but back then where's my face? Where's my face? Oh, here it is. I've still got one. No big deal, right? And I just, it was it wasn't my favorite thing to do to get down there because I actually went down there and this is, not many people know this, but at times in my life I've had to use a wheelchair to get around just depending on the severity of the situation I'm going into, the weather, and like how often or you know how long I'm going to be on my feet for the entire day. But mostly I use a walker. That specific day when I went in to get CPR training and first aid stuff, I was in my wheelchair. So I was downtown. It was the middle of winter. It was freezing. It's cold. I don't want to be there. I mean, aside from it being first thing in the morning, it might have been like 8, 9 o'clock. So aside from that, and the fact that I've had to wait like 3 to 4 months to get to go to this class, and it's in the middle of winter, not my favorite time of year. It's downtown Toronto, which means a lot of people, not my favorite scenario, but I'm there because of the job that I have lined up for that coming summer. And, I get in there, aside from the fact that it's super cold, and I go up the elevator and I find this room. I start looking for the room that we're supposed to be in. I find it, and it's this small unit within a giant office building that's in the middle of downtown Toronto. It's this small unit that looks no bigger than like a studio apartment. And I get in there with my wheelchair and all, and I realize I'm surrounded by about 15 or 20 people in this small room that's no bigger than a studio apartment. It is the shoebox of studio apartments, I promise you. It is tiny, tiny, tiny. I mean, I think I saw Smurfs running down the hallway. It's that small. It was that small, and I just thought, what am I doing here? And I kept thinking, all right, this is for the job that I have lined up. Let's just get through it, and everything will be fine, and I'll go home. So the instructor walks in about 5 to 10 minutes later after, we all take our seats, although I had come with one, be it I'm in a wheelchair that day, and I'm just sitting there like, hey, what's going on? How you doing, right? And we all, you make small talk, you try to introduce yourself, but a lot of the people that were there I think I was the youngest one in the room, or at least one of the youngest ones in the room, because everybody was, for the most part, in their 20s and older. And at that point, you're in 11th grade in high school. What do you like? You're like 16, 15, 16 years old, maybe 17. And, I think I did it on a day off from school, or it might have been on a weekend. But at that juncture in your life, right, there are a million other things you'd rather be doing. So I kept thinking of the million other things I'd rather be doing, knowing that I'm stuck in this small unit that's no bigger than, a single person studio apartment, and it's got 15 to 20 people in it, and we're all here to get first aid and CPR training. Oh, but wait, I have that summer job lined up, so just suck it up, Leigh, and get through it because it's just going to be fine. You'll be okay. That's what I kept thinking, right? Because it's cold, it's freezing, it's the winter. I want to be at home because A, I had just come in from the cold and I'm still cold and stuck in a wheelchair and all that stuff. I mean, I was 16 years old probably. So, what else do you think about, right? Like you want to be at home, you want to be chilling with your friends, you want to be talking to Susie, that girl whose locker is next to you, rather than being here stuck in class learning about CPR and first aid at that time in your life. So, aside from all that, the instructor walks in, introduces himself, and basically runs down what we're going to do for the entire day. It was an 8-hour day. I think we were there from like 9 to 5 or 8 till 4. It might have been 10 till 6. One of those three. And I realized, like, oh, I'm stuck here all day, right? And I didn't think it would take all day. I thought it would probably take 3-4 hours and I'd be done. No, it's a full 8-hour day. And I was just like, oh, brother, this is, not what I signed up for. But at the same time, if I need the CPR and first aid training, okay, let's go through this CPR and first aid training. So he runs through what we're going to do that day and the maneuvers he's going to teach us, like the Heimlich maneuver and CPR with the compressions and the checking for a pulse, checking for injuries too. Like if you walk up on somebody and they seem to need help and they seem injured, you would go introduce yourself like, hi, I'm so-and-so, or hi, I'm Leigh. Do you need any help? Can I assist you in any way? Or if they say yes, then you would check them for injuries and how to do that, right? See if anything hurts. And then you go through the CPR motions, the compressions on the chest, the checking for a pulse, the breathing into someone's mouth or giving them air, right, and oxygen. No problem. He ran through that. So now he tells us all to pair off, to partner up with whoever, like just people in the room so we can start practicing, I guess, or running through the motions of the Heimlich maneuver and the CPR stuff and the checking for injuries and the assisting somebody, right, if they need the help, if they happen to be injured or whatever. And I just thought, okay, and I was, at that time, I'm not one to go up to somebody and introduce, because I was super uncomfortable. I mean, I'm there by myself. Some people were there with friends, some people were there with family, but I'm there on my own, right? So I don't know anybody. I'm this timid kid who's just, I want to get this CPR and first aid training done. I want to get this certificate so I can possibly get this job and go home because it's the winter and I don't want to be out of the house right now because it's freezing. So, I didn't know what to do. I went up to a couple people, but they had already had partners because they had come with their friends and their family. So obviously they're going to partner up with them. I'm one of the odd men out, right? So, because I'm there by myself and don't know anybody. And the instructor didn't want to have me work with him, so what was I going to do? And out of nowhere, this girl comes up. I think she might have been a little older than me. She might have been like 19 or 20 at the time. And, she was cute. I'll give her that. She was a good looking girl, but at that juncture, I'm not thinking, oh my God, she's super cute. Like, I want to get to know her a little bit. Because it was super cold, I'm stuck in a wheelchair because of the mobility thing of going downtown and getting through the winter and such. And just the fact that the only reason I'm there is to get the CPR and first aid certification. I'm thinking I'm all business, right? Like I'm all business. I just want to get this certificate, pass that written portion of the exam, which I will get to. But I just want to get this certification and go home because this isn't my ideal scenario for being anywhere outside of my house for the day, right? So this girl comes up and says, "Hey, do you want to work together?" I had no objections because, I mean, we're all there for the same reason, we're all there for the same purpose, and that's to get certified in CPR and first aid, right? The thing with that is, and I knew that the instructor didn't want this because he had said that in the right off the jump as he introduced himself right at the beginning of the class, that he didn't want like opposite sex pairings. So guys working with girls, men working with women was not allowed. The thing is, I knew that, and I think because that's just one of the things that I paid attention to that day. I just, and at that point, because there was really nobody else, and I think we all just wanted to get it over with. I mean, I certainly just wanted to get the day over with. So, you know, getting whoever I was partnered with, I was, man or woman, I didn't care. I said, yeah, sure, let's do this. It's no problem, whatever. And the first thing we had to do was check the person. It's one of those scenarios where you walk up on somebody and they may seem hurt or they may need assistance. So the first thing we had to do was check the person for injuries, and that means like checking various parts of their legs to see if anything's out of place or misshapen. So basically that would mean I'd have to touch this girl's leg and whatever. But I'm not thinking along the lines of a single teenage boy or a single teenage guy at that point. I just want to get the first aid and CPR training, get certified, and go home. That's it. I'm not thinking along the lines of maybe I can get this girl's number or we can get to know each other a little bit. No, 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 no. It wasn't one of those days. I wasn't in that mode. I just wanted to get what I came for and go home, right? That's it. So before I can even start, the instructor sees this and says, "Hey, no, 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 you go work with him." And at that point, I'd been moved around. I was, getting moved around for me, not one of the things that I'm super receptive to, but I mean, if it'll help the day go along, and if it's what the instructor wants, and he's the guy that can basically give me what I came for, all right, I'll do it. I don't care, right? So I move over, introduce myself to this guy he's now got me partnered with, and I can tell right away that there's going to be a bit of a language barrier. There's going to be a bit of an issue there. Because I think I asked the guy that I was partnered with for most of the day where he was from. Yeah, I think he said he was from Pakistan or Sri Lanka. And he spoke English, but it was mostly broken. I mean, I'm trying to understand him. He's trying to understand me. And I could tell right away it's going to be an uphill battle. Like, I understood that, he's from a different country. English is not his first language, but this is a first aid and CPR class. And man, this is going to be an adventure, Not that it hadn't been already, but we're going to go through more, right? And so we start checking each other for injuries. That means like you're running, hi, my name is so and so. Do you mind if I check? Are you hurt? Do you need help? Do you mind if I check you for injuries? So that means like I'd have to, feel the guy's arm, feel the guy's leg, see if anything's out of place or broken or whatever, what have you, and see what I can do. Okay, we get past that. No problem, right? And then we move on to the Heimlich maneuver. And in between the time that we did the checking for injuries and running through the curriculum and then moving on to like the Heimlich maneuver, there was a break for like coffee, and you had maybe a half an hour for lunch, I think. So we all went and got a bite to eat. So that meant leaving the building and, getting food because we were all starving because we'd been at that at that time for probably like 3 or 4 hours. So we all went to get lunch. We come back up and we go through the paces of the Heimlich maneuver. Now, you're not actually supposed to perform the maneuver. Like, you're just supposed to put your hands and your arms in the positions of doing the either the CPR compressions, the Heimlich maneuver, the checking for injuries, or anything like that, right? And I don't know whether this guy that I was now partnered with, you know, who where I knew that there was going to be an obvious language issue. Yeah, I don't know whether he understood completely that you weren't actually supposed to perform the maneuver, because I'm sitting in my wheelchair and we're going through the Heimlich and he's actually performing the maneuver on me. So I start to, like, I'm nearly regurgitating. I almost feel like I'm going to throw up because I just eaten lunch and now he's forcing it up with the Heimlich maneuver. So, and I'm trying to be as nice as possible. I'm like, boss, you can't be doing that, man. Like, I just ate and I don't want to throw up, right? Like, I don't want to puke. So, like, you're not supposed to, and I told him, I said, you're not supposed to perform the maneuver, right? Like, you just put your hands there. You don't actually have to perform the maneuver because I'm not in danger of choking. I've already ingested my lunch. There's nothing lodged in my throat. You know what I mean? So he kept doing it about 3 or 4 times. I'm like, boss, honestly, you have to stop. Like, this is getting annoying now. Can you knock it off? You know, because it takes a lot for me to go from 0 to 60 in terms of like where my temper would be. But when you don't listen after 3 or 4 tries, I get cross. I get really ticked off. So I flag down the instructor, who finally looks over and like, no, 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 don't do that. You're going to hurt the guy, right? Like, you're not supposed to perform the actual maneuver. So the guy that I'm partnered with and the instructor now leave the room, right? So I'm sitting there catching my breath because he had me almost to the point, my partner did anyway, almost to the point where I was going to throw up, right? So I'm taking in every breath because I know he's going to come back in there. And I just had that feeling where nothing's going to translate and he's going to do the maneuvers even though you're not supposed to. So it just turns into this. I mean, I wasn't happy, right? Because A, there's a language barrier with me and this guy. And, you know, sure, English isn't his first language. I get that. But, I mean, when you're not supposed to perform the maneuver and it's not translating that you're not supposed to do it. I don't know what I'm supposed to do at this point because all I want to do is get this day over with, but I don't want to get hurt and I don't want to throw up. I just want to go through the day, right? Like, just get me through the day. Can I not just write this exam, pass it, and then have you certify me, please? But no, you actually have to perform the maneuver. Well, not perform the maneuver, but you actually have to show that you know the logistics of the maneuver, right? Like when it comes to doing the Heimlich and the compressions and checking for a pulse and the breathing in CPR. So 10-15 minutes goes by. My partner for the day and the instructor come back into the room. So I'm assuming that they hashed out whatever it was that he was doing and that he wasn't supposed to do and how he was actually supposed to be handling himself that day when it came to the maneuvers and anything else in that class. So they come back in. My partner now, comes again. He's behind me because I'm sitting in my wheelchair. And they go through the motions of the Heimlich again. Now, I don't know what was said out there. I can only assume that they went through what was supposed to happen, what he was doing, and what he wasn't supposed to do. But it didn't translate because he kept performing the Heimlich on me, like actually, fist into your stomach, up, and then out comes whatever is lodged. And I flagged down the instructor again because I kept telling him after he did that 1 or 2 more times, I finally went, okay, this isn't working. I don't know what else to do. I flagged down the instructor again, and my partner and I, like, my partner goes out again with the instructor, and not that they got loud or anything, but I could tell that the instructor wasn't pleased, and they left the room. So I just I felt bad because A, I'm holding up the other people's learning, but I also felt unsafe because you weren't supposed to perform the maneuver or any maneuvers, and he kept performing the maneuver on me. Now, I guess that he basically said, I'm going to give you one more shot with this guy, and if you don't get it, we're going to have to figure out something else. But after about 5 minutes, they came back in, and my partner for the day gets behind me. So after that, we move on to the CPR portion of the day, where somebody has to get on their back and the other person has to basically get into position of, mimicking performing CPR. So I I went first. So I'm on my back, and you're not supposed to perform a maneuver, because I don't know whether if any of you have gone through first aid and CPR training. When you push down on somebody's chest, when you're performing CPR, chances are you're going to crack or break a couple of ribs, because you're putting your body weight on somebody's chest to try and restart their heart, right? You're not supposed to do that in the class. At least that's what the instructor told us. Not supposed to do that, right? So I'm lying on my back, and this guy has to go through the paces of performing CPR, albeit not for real, because I like having my heart and my ribs intact. Thank you. So I'm just lying there going, oh, I hope this goes better than the Heimlich did, right? It didn't, okay? Because he starts actually doing compressions on me, and I had to stop him. I grabbed his wrist. I said, stop. You're gonna hurt me. Okay? You're not supposed to actually do the compressions. You're gonna hurt me. I don't want to get hurt. I just want to get the certification and go home. And I'm not yelling at the guy, but I'm not happy. I'm really upset at this point. And I'm trying to keep my cool, because we're surrounded by 15 and 20 other people in the class that are trying to learn how to do the first aid and CPR training. I don't want to take up from their time, but this guy's going to hurt me, right? And I don't want to get hurt, so I'm just like, stop it, you're going to hurt me. And he's like, oh, I'm sorry, and whatever, right? So we start again. He starts doing compressions on me again. At that point, I grabbed his wrists and I pulled him off me. But I just, give me a minute, get off me. Because I was super upset, not happy. At that point, here's the thing. The weather, the season, the fact that it's downtown, the fact that downtown is full of people, and that we're in a room that's super small, no bigger than a studio apartment. It's basically the size of a shoebox. And it's the 15, 20 people in there. Aside from all that, I'm legitimately going to get hurt. That's one of the thoughts going through my mind in this class. I'm legitimately going to get hurt today because of this language barrier. Not that it's his fault, because he's not from Canada and English isn't his first language, but I'm going to get hurt, and I don't want to get hurt. I'm not yelling at the guy, but I am telling him firmly that he's going to hurt me. You have to stop. I don't want to get hurt. So the instructor finally sees this after about the third or fourth compression on the second go round, and he pulls the guy who was my partner outside again. So that I'm lying on my back and I'm legitimately just trying to catch my breath and not shed a tear because it actually did hurt. Like the compressions on my chest really did hurt because he was probably 6 foot 180, something like 6 foot 6'2", about 180 pounds. And at that time I was probably, maybe 5'4", 130, 140 pounds. So I'm hurting, and I just didn't know what to do. So I lied there and just tried to catch my breath as much as I could because I knew they were going to come back in the room in a few minutes, right? So thankfully, when they came back in about 10 minutes later, I'm not sure what was said because I'm at that point just trying to relax and calm down and just catch my breath and hope that I'm not hurt too badly or if at all. I'm not sure what was said, but they come back in 5-10 minutes later, and he takes the guy who was my partner, gives him to some. What he does is he says, "All right, I didn't want to partner up with anybody, but my instructor takes the guy that I was partnering with and says, you're going to partner up with me for the rest of the class, and then send some other guy over to partner up with me for the rest of the day." And I just felt a bit of a relief because I was like, oh, I hope this goes better. And the new guy that I was partnered with, actually, who was still, we were still doing the CPR stuff when it came to, like, I was still on my back, so they were still gonna run through the motions of doing CPR. And the new guy that I was partnered with, he just sort of leaned down. He said, "You all right?" I'm like, "Man, I'm so sore. Like, I just want to go home right now. I'm hurting, bud. Like, it hurts. You know what I mean?" And we had a good laugh. Like, I was just like, "I'm glad to see you." Just, and I said to him, like, "Please be gentle." He's like, "Don't worry, just don't worry." Um, and I even said to the guy, I'm like, I know it's not his fault. There was a bit of a language barrier because he's not from Canada. And, I just didn't want to get hurt, or I'd go through any more pain than I already had that day. So, we finish up with the CPR training and then we move on to performing CPR on rubber dummies, right? Which is fine. It's better because rubber dummies don't talk back, right? They can't feel anything. So, you run through the paces of where to place your hands, how to, assist with the breathing and the airway, which was fine. We did that for probably 20 minutes, to a half an hour, and then it came time for the written portion of the CPR first aid test or exam, whatever you want to call it, which I passed. Yay. I think we all did. So, round of applause to everybody. We all passed. Yay, yay, yay. So, we all get in line to get our certification. And when I think a certificate, I'm thinking a piece of paper that you can frame, put on your wall or something, like a diploma that you would get in school, like college or high school or even elementary back in the day. Something like that, right? I'm thinking it's about the size of a diploma. No, I get up there and the instructor hands me these two. It's like a folded piece of paper. They almost look like two tickets that you would get at like a carnival or a school fair or like a book drive or like something out of a Chuck E. Cheese game when you win your tickets, right? And you tear them and then take them to go get prizes or whatnot. it was one of those. I just looked at it and like it had my name on it. I signed it. The instructor signed it. I took it. But the entire time I'm looking at it and it felt very underwhelming knowing that I'd gone through a full day, nearly gotten severely hurt several times, and I basically got something that was no bigger than a pen, that proves that I'm certified to do CPR and first aid. It felt very underwhelming. I mean, I was happy to have it. Don't get me wrong. I was happy to have it. That way I could go to this interview in the summer, possibly get the job, and everything would be fine. I was happy to have it, but after the day I had had, it just felt very underwhelming. Right? Have you guys ever gone through CPR and first aid training? Have you had any sort of experiences quite like that? That's the story of Leigh Dickey, yours truly, going through first aid and CPR class. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Please comment, like, share, and subscribe. Of course, as always, I've been Leigh Dickey. We will see you all in the next one. All right. Let me know if you've had any sort of experiences like that before. Post it in the comments on my website. Find me on social media. But until next time, this is Leigh Dickey signing out. Peace.